Good morning, everyone. It's time for Motivational Monday, and I got a new computer here, and you can see I haven't got my controls. All right, and you can see the mess in the background. I'm sorry for that. I just can't adjust it. Um, but today I'm really excited to be sharing with you from about the book "The Greatest Salesman in the World" by Og Mandino. So let's just get started straight away, and I want to tell you a bit about Og Mandino. Okay, so he was born in 1923, which would make him nearly 100 now, uh, except he passed away. Okay, and he's the most widely read inspirational and self-help author in the world. He was a former president of Success Unlimited magazine, and he was the first recipient of the Napoleon Hill Gold Medal for literary achievement. He was a member of the International Speakers Hall of Fame and honored with the Masters of Influence by the National Speakers Association. He died in 1996, but his books continue to inspire countless thousands all over the world. He's sold over 50 million copies of his books and been translated into 25 languages. And he is best known for his best-selling book, The Greatest Salesman in the World. Now, Mandino was a military officer. He was a bombardier. He actually flew 30 bombing missions over Germany, during World War II. But his life was not all good. Okay, after his military duties, he became an insurance salesman, and there was a time when things went so bad that he actually contemplated committing suicide, but he didn't even have the courage to pull the trigger. Um, so he sorted out through several books in the library he went to read. He read volumes of self-help books, success and motivational books. Um, read all these books. Just kept on reading and reading hundreds of books that dealt with success. And it was actually a pastime that helped him get out of his alcoholism, which is one of the problems he had. And he says that it was in a library, after reading countless books, that he found Clement Stone's classic Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. And this book changed his life. He went to look for Clement Stone, joined his insurance company, and from there became a manager and rose to be very successful. And it's um, along the way that he was commissioned by Bantam Books to write this book, The Greatest Salesman in the World. And the story goes that they didn't think it would go very well. So his first print was just 5,000 copies. But what happened was there was a convention where the founder of Amway recommended this book to his sales agents, Amway sales distribution force. And when they read it, they found it so good that it was there that it exploded. And he was printing, I think he sells 100,000 copies at least a month. Okay. Anyway, you know, his works were inspired by the Bible, also influenced by Napoleon Hill, who we've just been studying, Clement Stone, and this author called Emmett Fox. Now, The Greatest Salesman in the World is about 10 invaluable scrolls which contain priceless wisdom that built trade empires and created the greatest salespeople in the world. It's just 128 pages, but the book explains one of the most effective things you can do to become a better salesperson, and that is to become a better person. So this book is not, some people say it's not about sales. It's about life, but it is about sales because life is about sales. Okay. Let me share with you what Paul J. Meyer, who's the president of Success Motivation Institute, said about this book. Okay. I've read almost every book that has ever been written on salesmanship, but I think Og Mandino has captured all of them in The Greatest Salesman in the world. No one who follows these principles will ever fail as a salesman, and no one will ever be truly great without them. But the author has done more than present the principles. He has woven them into the fabric of one of the most fascinating stories I've ever read. So it is actually a story. Okay. Paul de Baptista, he's a CFA. Okay, he's an investment person. This is what he wrote about the book. The title does not do the book enough justice. It is much more than a spiritual journey on how to maximize your potential than a book about sales. The author himself had quite an eventful life. He was a former World War II bombardier turned insurance salesman turned best-selling author and speaker. If there is one silver lining from these sad dystopian times we are living now, it is the fact that we are being handed an opportunity for self-introspection, one which hardly ever comes along throughout our normal, hurried lives. In my view, the greatest salesman in the world is the ideal antidote to a world living in lockdown. It will not grant you ready-made solutions, but may just plant a seed of positivity to get you started on the long and winding journey to success. Okay, now there's actually a story behind the scrolls, okay? And the story opens with Hafid, at that time the greatest salesman in the world, standing in his house. Okay, and he realizes he's about to die, and he's preparing to disband his entire trade empire and sell all his worldly possessions and give it away. Okay, so he speaks to his loyal bookkeeper Erasmus and recounts how he came into possession of these scrolls. Okay, and the story is that he was a camel boy. Hafid was a camel boy when he was young, okay, looking after the camels of this very wealthy man called Pathros. Okay, and Pathros had adopted him as his son, but taught him the hard way, making him look after the camels. And one day, Hafid begged Pathros to teach him how to be a salesman. And Pathros was curious. Why do you want to be a salesman? You know, um, and later found out it was because of love. This guy had fallen in love with the daughter of one of the richest men in the land, and this girl the father would not allow her to marry a camel boy, so he had to be rich, a rich salesman. So that was his motivation, love. Okay, you need to have a big why. Okay. Now, Pathros warned him. He said, being a salesman is one of the loneliest things to go through. But he kept begging him. And Pathros said, look, whatever I give you, whatever I teach you will be but a grain of sand compared to the mountains you must move for yourself. So that's a warning for you. Okay, I'm going to share the scrolls with you, but you are the one that's going to have to do a mountain of work. Anyway, so he sends Hafid away from his caravan. He gives him a very beautiful and expensive red cloak, asks him to go to Bethlehem, very, very poor town, to try to sell this very, very expensive cloak. Of course, Pathros himself has sold hundreds of these in Bethlehem, but he gave him a tough job. Anyway, after several days in Bethlehem, 4 days and no sale, Hafid is about to go back. He needs to go back after 5 days. He sleeps in a cave near the town. Okay, he's to save money. He's got no money. And there in the cold cave, it's winter. He sees a man, a woman, and a small baby boy, and they are shivering down there. And feeling for the family, he gives the family this expensive red cloak to keep the child warm. And he goes back saying, how am I going to explain that I haven't sold this cloak and I've given it away? As he goes back, he's followed by this brilliant star. And as he reaches there, he notices his master Petros standing there, admiring the star. Okay. Anyway, so to Petros, this was the sign that Hafid was the one who deserved to be given the scrolls. Okay. So he passes the scrolls to Hafid with, and instructs him to go and apply what he has learned. And he gives certain instructions, which I'll tell you later at the end of the story. Okay. So that's how the scrolls came about. Now, and this is and Hafid applied these scrolls as a poor camel boy to become, at that time when he writes his story, the richest man in the world. Now, each of these scrolls contains an affirmation or a promise to make that you make to yourself, along with some powerful words of wisdom, and these words of wisdom will alter your life. Now, I've heard people talk about this book so much, okay, mention it. I've never read it, okay, but I decided to do this series partly because I wanted to study this, and I've been listening to the audio maybe 10, 12 times. And the first time I listened to it, I got so excited because these were principles of life that will make me a better person. And I want to share them with you. Uh, it's going to be a really exciting journey. Okay, so next week we will look at scroll 1. Okay, and scroll 1 is actually the most important because it contains the secret, Hafid says, given to only a handful of men. It teaches what is the most effective way to learn what is in the other scrolls. Okay, so prepare your heart. Okay, make sure that you just pray that you're ready, because when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and transformation in your life.